Because if it started recording automatically for years, it would record to the cloud automatically.
Okay. Hello, everyone. It is recording now, right?
Yes, it
good.
is.
It's your meeting.
No,
Yeah,
it's
it's
our meeting.
inquiry. Yeah, it's inquiry, but
Well, yes, but it's our meeting.
yeah,
So,
you lead.
hello, everyone. So glad to have everybody here. Um, well, we haven't really discussed anything about did we want to do anything special this morning?
No, I think it's a good idea to lead, a set when we just wait for the rest of the people to come in. If you do that,
Sure.
Then I keep an eye on letting people in.
All right. So, what should we do today? Let's see. Last week we did.
How about we do an awareness of in and out of the wheel?
Okay. Hadn't considered that, but sure.
Would that be an idea?
Yeah.
So it's just like the one sensation and then how it stretches out to all the feathers.
Let's see what happens with that.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's close our eyes. Stretch the shoulders up, stretch the spine really tall. And then with an exhalation, just let it all fall down. Allow the skeleton to be supporting the body so the muscles can all relax and feel the weight of gravity pulling you down into your seat. Feel the heaviness and all of the unnecessary musculature. And with each exhalation, just feel a little bit more grounded and a little bit calmer and a little bit quieter. So we've recently started talking about a different version of, or a different way to think about the fetters. So instead of having a linear striving kind of model that leads to people having a lot of craving and clinging to feelings of success or failure, we're talking about it in form of a wheel, because our real experience of the fetters is that they constantly come up throughout the day, and we are constantly interweaving from fetter to fetter, from the positive elements of each to the more problematic elements of each. And it's a constant moving back and forth from station to station. And so what we'd like to do is to become more aware of where we are during the day and not get hung up on this is where I am in the long term for weeks or months or years, but recognize how we bounce back and forth in our experience from moment to moment. So I want you to feel into the body right now and start off by scanning from the top of the head down through the neck and the torso, and see if you can find any place in you that feels like there is a sense of a me, a sense of a self, a sense of your name. And as you scan from the top to the bottom, maybe say your name silently to yourself, or that I am here, or this is me, and see what lights up for you. And I want you to notice as you do that, if anything becomes a little bit brighter, a little bit more pronounced. And recognize our immediate inclination to attach onto that sensation a feeling of meanness, a feeling of identification. And I want you to explore into whatever shows up to see if there is indeed anything there that can be labeled as you without a thought doing the work. And we could recognize anytime throughout the day that we feel this contraction of self, when we feel this contraction of identification somewhere in our experience, whether it feels like I'm looking out through my eyes, or there's a strong point located in my heart, or there's tension in my throat, whatever you take to be an indication that you are an existent thing there, I want you to just take a moment to recognize that right now you are caught in first fetter identification. There's an identification with the body, and there's an identification with thought happening. And then just turn your attention inwards to see what it is that is taking your attention in that moment, and what it is that is being incorrectly identified as you. And there's no judgment about finding this thing. There's no judgment about getting pulled back into a sense of an I, even if you feel like you've already seen through self. It's something that can keep being experienced, and we tend to often bypass it rather than recognizing that it has come back and it comes and goes. So just look at it whenever that feeling comes up throughout your day. And it only takes a few seconds to just turn your attention inward and allow it to unravel itself and see what's really there. And you might notice sometimes when you're going throughout your day that you don't have this strong of a feeling of a sense of me or an identification, but that there's still something that seems to be present. There's still something that seems to be aware, something that seems to be a, an I going about life, even without the identity of my name and my backstory. But even in those moments, we can then look and recognize, okay, this is what we would call a Fetter 8 sense of I. It's more subtle. It's not as direct and um, grossly definable as what we consider Fetter 1, but it still feels like this identification. And so then we look into which of our sense experiences is it, which is giving me the indication that there is an I somewhere in experience. Even if it seems non-localized, then where is it being known? How is it being known? Recognize that there is something there which is being taken to be anything that's identifiable as an I, as awareness, as presence. And if throughout the day you recognize that you are being pulled into emotions, that you feel like whatever is happening has real repercussions on you, that there is a real emotional pull to something that's going on, you can recognize that this is identification around Fetter 2, and that you might have some trigger being touched because of some past history, some belief in the way that you are as an individual in this world, and the way that you relate to others and others relate to you. And so then we use the tools that we talk about to then find, well, is this true? Is this really who I am? Is there really a reason to be reacting, to be feeling and believing the things that I believe about myself? And we let those threads unwind. And so we can bounce back and forth from Fetter 2 to Fetter 9, where we can let go of all of these things. And then we're just in this state of flow for a moment. And it can feel really nice and really peaceful, and recognize that things are just coming and going. And then a moment later, somebody will cut you off in traffic. And then you get very, very reactive. And you start yelling again, because again, there's another form of identification in that I wanted I wanted to be driving without anybody interfering. Things are happening in a way that I didn't want them to happen. And now there is a reactivity And we assume that this is a necessary reaction and that I am aversive, that I am an angry person, or that I just have a problem with terrible drivers. It's just something I've always had. And so then we look into that, and we're constantly flipping from moment to moment, from one station on the wheel to the next. And we can recognize that not wanting somebody to cut you off in the traffic is the flip side of wanting to have a peaceful, quiet drive where nobody gets in your way. Wanting for your boss to not criticize you is the same as being reactive when your boss criticizes you. And so all of these things that we do are, all these experiences we have are reminders to then turn inward, go deeper into our experience, and don't just be conditioned to believe that you've already seen through self, so you can't identify anymore. Or I've already seen through desire and aversion, so I can't be caught in that again. And whatever's happening is just happening. Or that I haven't seen through self yet, so I can't work with identification on aversion. I can't work with craving yet because I still believe I'm a self. No matter where you feel like you are at any point, recognize what's coming up and then go back to working with it. And we can recognize boundary issues and things that come up that we would equate with Fetter 6, and then we investigate those. Sometimes you'll have interesting perceptual shifts. And instead of just saying that, well, I can't make any sense of that because I'm not through Fetter 5 yet, just take whatever comes in every situation and absorb the insights from that and see how they can be turned into something in your daily life, so that whether we are having a meditation session when all of a sudden boundaries start to fall away and you can't sense an inside or an outside of the body and you feel like you are looking at you from across the room, or all of a sudden I feel like I'm a tree and everything is one. If you have an experience like that, it doesn't mean that you are in a certain fetter. It means that you're having a certain insight, which can then be taken off of the mat, woven into your daily life in a way where you haven't lost that fetter because you're not currently feeling like you are everything, or that I'm looking at myself from across the room 24 hours a day. So instead of getting locked into, I have to be in this experience all the time to be in this fetter, we want you to recognize that you are constantly bouncing from fetter to fetter all throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, what things come down to are our ability to recognize sensations, recognize experiences without living through the labels that we attribute to all of these things. So we are dropping our beliefs and our conceptualizations, which brings us to the 10th fetter of losing all of these feeling of stability that we have grasped for so long. It's really coming to terms with the fact that we cannot know anything and we will never know anything for sure. And there's the peace and the wisdom to be found in that admitting of ignorance. And we can have that throughout our day. We can have times when we really know that, you know what, I believe that something should be the way it is, and I have absolutely no idea how it's going to turn out. So I have no idea whether what I'm doing right now is right or wrong. I have no idea whether the thing that just happened to me is really a good thing or a bad thing. It's simply what happened, and it's simply all that there is. And everything else that we put on that is some sort of judgment or label or belief that we're buying into. And most of this is coming because we have perpetuated these beliefs throughout our lives, and we haven't stopped to actually question if any of them are based on anything real. And can we really believe any of the things that we believe? Do we have any premise for that? And so it's gradually loosening all of our beliefs and loosening all of those little threads of identification bit by bit, so that we're no longer making something out of nothing like we do in Fetter 7, that we're no longer creating false boundaries in Fetter 6, that we're no longer believing our own limiting belief stories in Fetter 2, that we're no longer doing things for a purpose like we are in Fetter 3, where we feel like we have to manage things because we know what's best. We recognize with the 10th fetter that we don't know anything at all, and that is so liberating and so freeing. And it's not to be taken on as a belief, but when you have these moments of insight throughout the day, it's to be acknowledged and honored for the insights that they are, and let them really soak in and grow throughout this process. And then recognize every time that you get pulled into a different way of thinking, pulled into an old belief, pulled into an old identification. And then I want you to just recognize that and come back to whatever type of inquiry you've been doing to dissolve that, and then see what happens afterwards. So that was a very, very fast tour through all of the 10 forms of identification. And I hope some of that makes sense. And I hope you can recognize, as we're sitting in this meeting today, and after the meeting, as you go about your day, all of the ways that you're getting caught on a daily basis. And there is something to be said for having mindfulness in our daily lives, so that we're not just mindlessly going about the same routines throughout the day, so that we're not being distracted by things. We often tend to multitask in ways that we're so distracted that seeing the subtle forms of identification that are happening are so far below the radar, because we already are juggling physical activities, mental activities, to-do lists, things that I should have done but haven't done yet. And even when you recognize that you're doing that, come back to what's happening and recognize how much you're buying into all of the mind noise, all of the beliefs that you know the way things should have been and the way things should be and what you should be doing. And even more importantly, notice what feels like the identity who is able to make a decision, to have a sense of agency, to make a different choice, to have that agency to do something different in the moment. And I want you to get really curious with all of your experiences, because that will make it much easier to recognize when you're flipping from one fetter to another. And I think we should end there. So I want you to just come back into the body. Feel yourself on the chair or whatever you're sitting on. Feel the grounding of your feet on the floor or on your seat. Feel the breath coming in and out of the body. And then gradually open your eyes and just stay present with the experience of the day and not where your mind is taking you. And try to listen to this meeting from that point of just raw experience, and without doing as much conceptualization and ping pong of thoughts during it. Thank you.
Oh, I really like that. I really like the pointing to the identification that is happening, like flicking from identification that there is an I that can want something, not want something, that is, something is can be in the right way or should be in a different way, and just without any judgment, just watching that identification taking place and putting yourself in a position where how do you know that things should be in a certain way? You know, are any of us that wise that we know what, you know, gift is in what is happening right now? I mean, if all of us look back on our lives, the most complicated things that we have experienced, the biggest traumas we have had, in the moment didn't feel like something should be like this. You know, something should be different. The trauma that I have experienced, you know, nobody should go through that. And yet it is one of the things that has given us insights that we wouldn't have had in any other way. It could only, those insights could only happen through that experience. So how do we know that that experience wasn't the best thing that could happen? And it's just,
absolutely,
just really looking at every single type of identification we do through the day. Yeah, I really like that.
Nice.
I really like that. I just,
Yeah, okay.
yes.
All right. So, if anybody has any questions, so we should say to begin with, this is being recorded for anybody who's new here. This is being recorded. It will be public on my YouTube channel. If you want to bring up something that you don't want to be made public, just let us know ahead of time. We can pause the recording. If at some point you decide afterwards that you brought up something that you don't want public, just let us know, and you know, we can cut it out before we put it up. The other thing, so the other option is we can also, if you don't mind the content being used without the identification of you, we can also change your face, change your voice, and anonymize you, so that, you know, if there's something that would be helpful to other people, we would like to have it up. If you don't mind us just changing your appearance so that nobody can know that it's you. And the other thing is, if something is good that really seems to work and might be helpful for others, we also will tend to isolate those clips and just put out an individual one. So if you know ahead of time that you don't want your question to be extracted and used individually, just let us know ahead of time, and we won't do that either. Otherwise, it's all possible. So
yeah, and I also want to say that very, very often it's what is happening in the conversation is so useful for other people.
yeah.
So if at all you would be up for us using it, we would be so grateful. It's helping hundreds of people, so it's really useful. And then, as Todd said, we can put a picture up that is not you and change your voice, so nobody will know that it's you that is talking, and then the message will still come across and be helpful to hundreds of people. But yeah, that's it. For all the new ones, how it works is just you raise your hand, and whatever you would like to do inquiry about, we do inquiry about. And you're welcome to just sit and listen, and you're welcome to say something.
Yeah. You can just raise your digital hand, and we'll go one by one.
Rowena, you wrote on my YouTube channel about an insight you had. Would you be okay if we talk about that?
Yeah, sure. With pleasure.
Let me just pin you.
You want me to do it?
Yeah. You and your long arms. It's perfect. Hello.
Okay. Hello.
I don't know if we could hear you. Could you?
Can you hear me?
No, I can't hear you.
No,
but
is
that on
I
my
think
end?
it's us. Yeah.
I unmuted
All right,
myself.
sorry. Yeah, hold on one second. Yeah, okay. That's on us. Can you say something now?
Hello.
Yes.
There we go. Much
Perfect.
better.
We can hear you.
Much
hear
better.
you. It was because you posted something on my YouTube channel, and I loved it so much. The insight that you had was absolutely amazing, and I was wondering if you would like sharing it.
Yeah, I would. So, gosh, it's a little bit hazy now. It's not so sort of like fresh.
Do you want me to say it? And then you can.
Yeah. Maybe that would be easy. Then I don't have to go into sort of thinking too much.
Yes. Perfect. Okay. what you wrote on my channel, how I understood what you wrote, was that you had an interaction with your mother, and in that interaction you realized that there were so many conditioned patterns in it, that she would say something that would make you react in a certain way, and that was part of the game. That you then reacting would mean that she didn't have to say what she wanted or say what she didn't want or change her life in any way, because you did the job for her. And that constellation of her saying something, you reacting, her then being, now I'm just making stuff up, her then being hurt about you being dismissive of her, was just part of the role that she was playing, and you were a pawn in that game. And that kind of pulled you out of the situation. So instead of reacting, you could have compassion for her needing to pull strings like that, for her to feel in a certain way. That's how I understood it.
Yeah, that's you're seeing it from a slightly sort of more intricate perspective, perhaps. The whole game was, from my sort of feeling from being a child, it was always like, why can't you be other than you are, basically, which led to a lot of confusion and a sort of a sense of shame and a sense of like permanently being judged, and always just feeling on edge, because if I couldn't be who I was and be accepted for who I was to a certain degree, because she wanted me to be other than that, it left a very insecure, there was a lot of insecurity, which really was there until, and probably this, of course, as you said too, that it's seen through, but there will still be hangover sort of that will carry on. But what was seen was all of it was this, from the interchange I had with her about something, and I was a bit dismissive of what she was saying. And I said, oh, well, you would think like that. Why do you always think like that? And I realized I was saying her voice back to her. Why can't you be different? Why can't you see things differently? And so we had finished the call, and I felt sad. I thought, oh gosh, why am I so judgmental? And then I just saw somehow the pattern of her shouting, a me little person. And I was and in that rerun, I was laughing because she was saying, you should be different. And I was sort of saying, well, I can't, because I'm just me, Yeah. It was like the pattern was broken. Yeah. And I really sort of saw myself little and laughing, and in a sort of almost a mischievous way, that I didn't need to hold on to it.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And in that you're also setting her free, that she doesn't need to be any different than she is. She can be as dismissive and judgmental as as she wants to. Yeah, it's completely fine. You're setting her free to be that, and by that you're healing both of you. Yeah.
Having since I think that's probably a week or so was when you did just release that first Fetter 5. So since then, it hasn't been such a sort of shame-based thing, but there has been some reactivity coming up of the sort of somewhat judgmental about, and some defensive things going on, which I'm sort of inquiring into, but the root seems to be a bit different.
Yeah. Do you know what the what it is you're diverting from? I just want to make clear, when we talk about being reactive, somebody's saying something and you're reacting, the way that we look at it is that is a diversion from something underneath that we don't want to feel. So there's a feeling coming up in the body, and instead of staying with that feeling, we divert our attention by pointing fingers and reacting at the other person, wanting, to blame, shame, and complain about them, because then we don't have to feel the body. Do you know what the diversion is about? Do you know what it is there's the feeling in the body that you're trying to divert from?
Well, yeah, that there currently there's been feeling of mostly sadness.
Mm.
A lot. The situation that I'm a full-time carer, and also but there's been some sort of rather dramatic, I don't really know, but moments of, I suppose, reactivity, simply because my husband is very unstable and I have to move him and he doesn't move, and he seems to be falling, and I'm saying stand up straight and he's saying you're pushing me, and it sort of gets, it's fraught. And my whole thing is there's a survival thing, although he doesn't fall. And then afterwards, and there is a sense of sort of, this shouldn't be happening afterwards, and sadness is coming up because I'm trying to do my best, and that we're not understanding each other's body language, and it's all very difficult. And that's a sort of thing which is pretty intense, because it's not even we are saying things to each other, but we're in this fraught state of, in a way, danger, not really danger, but it could be.
But also vulnerability about, your life together having changed from what the expectation and the original plan was, into something that neither of you could see that this was how it was going to pan out, that this is how at some point we reached that point of no return, and then it's just acknowledging this is our life from now on, this is how it ends, how our relationship and our marriage ends, with one of you not being anymore. This is how it is. And obviously there's a lot of sadness and a lot of frustration and vulnerability and in that.
So that seems to be, it's not so much the shame thing, it's more a different thing, this sort of sadness, and of also being, doing the best. Also, in a way, realizing that he's doing his best too, but when the situation gets stressful, then there's reactivity. And then it's like, how do I untangle that? Because it's Fetter 5, but and I have worked quite a bit and disengaged from calmer situations, which are more verbal, but this is like when you're holding somebody's weight up and trying to transfer them, it's taking it up to another level, as it were.
A question that I'm trying to kind of figure out how to formulate it, but I know I've been in similar situations to that. And so I know, recognizing it from a little bit from when I was in it, and then definitely from afterwards, though, was the recognition that the stress reaction in that moment is really unhelpful in that moment. Like it is so counterproductive. And we feel like it's just the natural thing to respond with in that situation, but actually it's just making the situation worse for both of you. So I'm trying to feel into how to kind of what is actually happening in that moment when you are trying to stand him up, and there's that disconnect between your perception of what's happening and his perception of what's happening, and then that kind of feedback loop of him being reactive and you being reactive to him being reactive. And what is actually happening in you in that moment?
I think it's impatience.
What would you like to be happening at that moment?
I've had moments when it's worked, when it's like, oh, we can just stay here for the next 5 minutes. And it hasn't always been like that. But then sometimes there is different situations where, the circumstances shift. And yeah, I think it's impatience. I want this precarious situation, or probably some tiredness underlining that it's not okay. I want this to be over. So yeah, I think it really is an impatience thing.
Yeah. So have you worked with that in terms of, you know, sitting with like a sentence and stimulating it and sitting with that in the mat?
I haven't worked with it in that situation, but I worked with it in a different format a little while ago. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, because impatience in that is the same that we have, you know, with children that are not, you know, taking the right Wellingtons on, and they want flip-flops in snow and all of that. It's the same impatience.
Yeah.
We have a plan in our head of how things are supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And then they act like a stick in the wheel to my plan.
Yeah.
In that moment, we're not present in the moment. We are already sitting in the car on the way to kindergarten, school, and work. We're not here in the moment, and by that we're not compassionate for the experience we have in ourselves in that moment, and compassionate with the child, or in your case, your husband, in that moment.
And I think some of that, like what you just said too, is really important, because I understand, Rowena, that feeling of exhaustion that kind of underlies it and makes it all even more, everything seems exaggerated in its importance and in its you know, irritability, and it's just not okayness. And I think that compassion that you mentioned, of having that compassion with yourself, in that recognizing, okay, I really do feel exhausted right now, and I am, you know, and have compassion for the fact that you are doing something really remarkable and honorable, and that, you know, you it's okay to feel that it's okay to feel exhausted and really overburdened in that situation, and have compassion for yourself, instead of, I have to power through it and I have to, you know, any of that comes up, recognize how self-defeating that is. And
but also really understanding that there's no end to it. I mean, the end is the end that nobody wants, like you had with your mom. The only end that was there was that she was going to die, and then it would end. There's no other end, and you don't want that end to happen.
It's true.
But until that end happens, you will be exhausted. You will have PTSD until that ends happen, and we don't want that end to happen. So it's also really so much compassion for that situation you're in, Rowena, that it's like, you know, no one should go through what you're going through. And yet here we are. So really having compassion for that.
Thank you. I mean, that's something that does get a little bit. I mean, I work with, I hold the space for myself often at nighttime. You know, I can feel into the sadness, but not so much for what I'm actually doing. And you know, it's more just raw sensation, holding the space for that. But yeah, and actually, it's funny because again, I realized I was talking about patience, but also the little voice which has slipped beside me was, why can't you move your feet the way I want you to move? You know, so it's just that sentence that really crops up. So
there is so much frustration in the person, seeing a person lose their abilities in life, and
you don't want it to be like that, you know.
No, and it's such a natural reaction to taking somebody who you love, taking somebody who you've been with, and seeing that downhill slide, and knowing, I think a lot of it comes down to that powerlessness that we feel, that it's coming from that place of recognizing that we can't really do anything about it. It's
and it's
just
only
being
one
present.
Direction.
Exactly.
It's only going in one direction.
That
it's not going back to being jolly and happy and good again ever.
No. And you just have to be present for it. And that's the sort of the most you can do, is to
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sending you so much love.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, it's just wonderful, wonderful having your help and everything to do with coming from the both of you. Honestly, it's just a very great blessing.
Oh,
Thank you.
so happy. So happy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, could you long arm do that? I'm so much better at that than I am. First you unpin.
I do. Yeah, I don't know. There we go. Okay. My eyes are not working today.
It's on.
Where's the
It's
pin?
down.
There we go. Thank you.
There we go. Hi, Glenda. It's the first time I'm meeting you here, isn't it?
Yeah, I just discovered you a couple weeks ago. And so I started off listening. Of course, I skip around to all the different ones that are on YouTube because I want the goal. I don't want to do the work.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking for the final.
We've never heard that before. You're the utterly only one that are doing that.
Yeah, it feels that way. So what hit me most was the toxic starting points.
Mm.
And I'm a passive aggressive bully.
Yeah.
And what was so amazing about it, well, of course it hurts when you hear it, but everything you said, I was classic, like the neck, the jaw, the manipulation, but the key above all else was hearing envy.
Mm.
And the fact is, I spend my life envying everyone because, I had a childhood of abuse of all kinds, and I did not matter.
Mm.
And, but when I heard this word envy, I went, oh my God, it was a secret key that I didn't understand. And, I could say that I have low self-worth and all that, but envy was like, it opened a whole world of seeing differently.
Yeah.
And compassion came in.
Yeah.
And, the base core here is shame, of course, but there was even though a passive aggressive bully sounds horrible, and you wouldn't want to go around telling people that, it was like, wow, I'm a passive aggressive bully. This is I know what I am, and I heard what you said. Don't make that identification.
Yes.
It's a toxic starting point. So this feels like a lot of space has opened up.
Yeah.
And it's very exciting. And for the first time, because of this envy was seen, it's like I want to do the work for myself instead of doing the spiritual work so I'll be a good person, so other people will like me, so that maybe I'll get a sense of power, things like that. So my question right now is working with the mantra, I love myself, I matter. And when I say it, it means nothing. Yet, there was that recognition of there's no shame about this. And there's a sense of wonder here. So there's already a growing, I love myself, and an awareness of, I could matter. I don't have to envy others. But yet, when I hear the words, I go to say the mantra, just like goes right over my head. So I don't know if you can help me with that. Or, and who am I saying this mantra to?
Yeah.
You know, there's no self, right? And I
Yeah.
don't know if that's a distraction. So maybe you can help me with that.
Yes, yeah, two different things. The first thing I would like to say is the first thing I would like to say is congratulations. It's really, really well done for you to be in that vulnerable state where you can admit that envy is kind of like the driving force in everything you want and don't want. To really admit that, because it's not, like you say, something that you go and share with your neighbors, you know, that you're envious of everything, because it's such a shameful thing to admit. So you to admit that, and then also admit that to avoid feeling envy and to getting everything I'm envious about, I manipulate people for that to happen. I mean, for you to do that, that's really, really, I really want to compliment you for that. Well done for that. The one that you're saying the mantra to is little Glenda. It's the part of you that we're never told that she matters. That was never told that when something is happening to you, somebody is violent towards your body, or violent towards your mind or your intellect, or in any way abusive towards you, that's not okay. You have a boundary. You have the right to say no. You have the right to the feelings that you have, and I support you. You matter. That is the Glenda you're telling. So a way you can do it is when you're in a situation and you feel envy coming up, know that envy right now, it's just a diversion. It's easier to admit that you are envious of Janice because she has, you know, a loving family and a partner that supports her and has a great, you know, relationship with mom and dad, and you are really envious of her having that. That is easier to be with than to feeling that I never had that. You know, I am utterly alone. My body was, you know, there to be abused. I have no right to saying yes or to say no. So in the moment, being brave and staying with that part that needs to be healed is what I would recommend you to do. Because when you really, really look at it, there is no such thing as envy. It's just something we do to divert from the feeling we have. Do you recognize that? Or am I too quick?
Absolutely. No. And but you know what was interesting, I just noticed now as you were speaking and in explaining who I'm saying the mantra to, I went out of body. The little girl was, you know, I couldn't hear what you were saying almost. I had to come back in. Like it right there, I saw I'm so afraid to work on the little girl. I'm a big girl now. I understand concepts. So get on with it.
Oh.
And that's what and that's that's what I just saw here very clearly as you were speaking, because I couldn't hear what you were saying.
Yeah.
So I thank you for that. Yeah. So is doing that.
It's every time I think what would be helpful for you now is every time you catch yourself in being dismissive of what is present, then you need just to stop and just breathe a bit. Just catch up with coming back into the body and just being with what it is, because being dismissive is one of the cruelest things we can do to anyone, no matter if they are children or if they're adults. Being dismissive of another person's experience is the worst thing we can do. It's the most cruelest thing we can do. So whenever you're dismissive towards yourself, that when you're tired and you go like, you can't not possibly be tired. You slept in this morning. You've done absolutely nothing today. You can't be tired. that is being dismissive of what is actually happening in the body right now. Then you stop and you breathe and say, okay, I hear you, yet I'm tired. It's about that really acknowledging that a boundary is there. Because every time we're dismissive, it's when we have issues like you talk about with envy and being manipulative, it's about boundaries. It's about that there's something happening and a boundary has been met and you refuse that boundary to be there. And that's why you're dismissive to the experience. And that's why you need to manipulate people, because your own boundaries are not being respected by you.
Yeah, thank you. That really clarifies deeply something that I'm doing. I'm being dismissive.
Yeah.
And not only of myself, but of others too.
Yeah, that's the thing. And that's why this is so useful, because you becoming aware that, okay, being dismissive is my thing. Then you start to notice when you're dismissive towards other people, when you're dismissive to what you hear in the radio, to people in traffic, to you, it's like what is in one aspect is in all aspects. So right now, having your headlight on being dismissive, having your headlight on noticing that, and when you catch yourself in it, come back and having compassion. Oh my goodness, there's again a disrespect towards boundaries. Don't be on your case about being dismissive. That is not helping at all. Being compassionate. I just caught myself in being dismissive again. Okay, I love you. I'm right here. You matter. When you're dismissive towards other people, first have that, okay, I was just dismissive. I love you. You matter. And then you turn it in towards yourself and just saying, Glenda, you matter too. So it's like you keep reminding yourself about that. So discovering that you're dismissive is not something to be avoided or hating that you are dismissive. It's more to be compassionate and love that you just found out that you are, and then heal what needs to be healed.
Yes, it's huge. It's huge. I cannot tell you how huge that is.
Wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. I'm looking forward to hearing next time how you've gotten on with it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Oops.
Debbie.
I
don't know why I can't see it.
Hi, Debbie.
Hi there.
Good to meet you.
Yeah, nice to see you. I think you can probably help me. I'll just try to spell some stuff out, and then you tell me what you think. So I've been working with the LU guide and got to the final questions, and at the end there was like a question about, and I don't know if it's different for everybody, but whatever, it was about like responsibility, like what are you responsible for? And that's where I sort of got like, I recognized like I got trapped because I I felt like this, I should at least try to follow my intuition. And I had all these things like to because the character wants to be a good person, right? And then I think I got trapped in there, and they were poking at it like different, asking questions about it. And like I know the right answer, right? So I said the right answers, but meanwhile they didn't tell me I passed until the morning. And when I woke up, I was like, oh, I was just how much I got trapped. And I was like, all right, just say it. Like, there's no responsibility. I have no responsibility because there's no self, so there's no responsibility. Like, how does that feel? Like, why are you stuck there? Right. And I started crying and like Friday, you kept saying over and over, you were saying over and over, like compassion and love. And I'm like, oh, will you stop with that? Because it's like, I don't know what that is. All right. I don't know. How can I like give the little thing like compassion? I don't know what that is. Like, all right, can we give it space for acceptance? I can work on that. Like, like what does love mean? I don't know. That's just that word, right? And I just saw, like, when I was thinking about the responsibility, I don't know, I just had this memory, like when I was a little girl, like it was so crazy, but this was so real and so scary. When I was little, right, I thought God was at my window, right? I thought he was like at my window. Like I had 3 brothers, they had their own bedroom, and I was like in this little bed by myself. And I'd wake up in the middle of the night and God was at my window and judging, you know what I mean? And I'd be like, I'm sorry, God, I'm sorry, God, I'll do better. I'll do better. I promise I'm going to do better. And it was like, I was like, like that was like, you know, like I was a little girl, for God's sakes, you know what I mean? Like I didn't have time to do much wrong, really, you know, like what, I steal a cookie or something, like what, you know? But I don't know. So I cried and I thought, you know, actually, I think I can have compassion for that little girl, because that's so, like, it's so sad that that little girl was like that. Like
Yeah.
I don't know how
Absolutely.
the hell a little girl gets like that, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know. So I think this stuckness, I know I need to sit more. It's really, really hard for me to sit. I don't know if like I'm in the ADHD ballpark, or I'm just so habituated to look away, don't sit still, move, don't look there. So I don't know what it is, but it's so hard to sit. But my best chance is sort of like Rowena mentioned, sort of like early in the morning before I get out of bed, late at night. Like those are my best chances for kind of like really letting go and feeling in. But all right, I'm just gonna leave it there. But I needed help with this. So
I love it so
I mean,
much.
I almost wanted to,
I would love to for you
yeah.
to do an inquiry about that responsibility.
Yeah, well, I mean, okay. So it's so funny because as you were talking, it was like different things were coming up. So it was really interesting in terms of the, you know, the LU responsibility question and what came up for you around that. Initially, I was kind of going one way with it, and then you kind of kept going deeper into this sort of thing that's, you know, underlying it. So really amazing work already in kind of chiseling down underneath just the issue of, is there responsibility or not? I mean, I feel like on one hand, if we look at it from the LU way of no self, no responsibility, we could undercut and kind of bypass and lose a lot of what's happening right now there. And so I feel like it's actually better to go into it from the side of this little girl, from this underlying drive. And now something that I bring up a lot is that even, you know, it's just great that you have this memory of this little Debbie who, you know, was feeling terribly remorseful over stealing a cookie or whatever little things, you know, she did because she felt like she was being judged and guilty and, you know, shameful for those things. But why it's really important right now is because this Debbie, this adult Debbie, is sitting here feeling the same thing, right? If you still have this underlying feeling of responsibility that you can't shake, it's because that little girl is still there. That same drive, that same belief is still present. So what I'd like to do is to see if we could feel into that and feel into what's underneath that a little bit. So
Okay.
when you are trying to sit, like right now, well, okay, let me ask you a question before that. You said you have a hard time, you have a hard time sitting and you know, and you don't know if it's ADHD or just diversion. So question I have is, what kind of meditation or inquiry do you usually try to do?
I mean, I tried Zen every day, just mostly like the most frustrating, horrible, negative thing in the whole world. But I gave it an hour a day for 6 months, you know, like with the
Yeah,
Zen Zoom group. And I just like, I feel nauseous even thinking. Like it took me a while to get back to these Zoom meetings because I just like, oh, that room, the
yeah,
screen, oh my God.
yeah.
Like it felt like that's definitely can't be the way to go. Like I don't know, like how much suffering do you have to endure? I don't know.
Well, and that's
Walking in nature, you know, you
yeah,
know, is
good.
like my closest.
Well, and you already answered one of the questions I was going to have actually in that. So it doesn't matter what method you were trying to do. What's interesting about that is the resistance to it. And you just said that you get nauseous thinking about even going into the room to do this. So what I
Yeah.
would like you to do, if you wouldn't mind, is I would like you to close your eyes. And were you doing a
Okay.
breath watching meditation?
Yeah, that's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So could you, for me, for a few minutes, close your eyes and watch your breath the way that you would normally do it. But what I'm really curious about is where your attention is going in the body. Is your attention staying focused just on the point of the nose where the breath is coming in? What are you focusing on to begin with?
So I I think usually the belly, the in and out on the belly, but sometimes it goes to the nose, and of course it goes everywhere. It goes, then the raging thought streams and stuff.
Sure. Do you find, can you put your attention on the belly right now?
Yeah.
So I want you just for a minute to keep your attention on the belly as you're following the in and the out, the expansion and the contraction. And if you notice that the attention is trying to be pulled up to thought or pulled up to your nose or someplace else, bring it back to the belly and the feeling there. But I want you to also start to become aware of the rest of the body. So you can keep half of your awareness on the belly going in and out, in and out. And I want the other half of the awareness to be checking to see if there's any discomfort somewhere else in the body. Check around the belly, check the torso, the chest. And tell me if you feel anything that feels uncomfortable.
Yeah, there's just like those gut sensations, like the cold grippiness, this kind of lower back pain where I think my kidneys might be.
Well, can you say more about that cold grippiness in the belly?
Yes, I mean, sort of like I could picture a steel cannonball there, really. I mean, it's just
Okay, can you take all of your attention then and put it on that cannonball, on that cold grippiness? And I want you to focus your attention into that and see what's really there. What comes up if you don't run away from it and if you put all of that attention on that cannonball? It's okay. Go with it. Feel into it. Good. Good. It's okay. Stay with it and let it out. Keep breathing. Keep breathing. Just feel what's there to be felt. Notice any thoughts that come up around it. Notice any images that come up. Just let them come. Good. Stay with it. Can you feel that compassion for that sensation? Can you feel that compassion for having been there for so long? Can you tell me what's coming up with it?
I had this huge flood of gratitude because it was hard to keep going back down and back down. And
Mm,
I just felt you guys supporting me. And I had this huge wave of gratitude. Like huge, like that. And then you asked about the compassion. That was harder, like to go back down. Like I don't, that's funny to feel about that sensation. That's harder. Like I don't want to lie, like
yeah. Sorry. Do you have a sense?
because I want to like be like doing what you want me to do. I really want to,
Oh no, no. And again, this is about where you are and what feels right to you. So you're not here to please us or to do, the right thing. There's no right thing or wrong thing. Do you have a feeling of when you first came in contact with that cannonball sensation? Can you tell what emotional quality that had around it? How would you label that if you were going to use a label?
when it was still a cannonball, when it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
I mean, that cold grip, that's like sort of like fear,
Mm,
right? And then like the hardness is sort of like resistance,
mm,
right? Like don't go there, don't
yeah,
go to the cold grip, right?
yeah.
And then like I cry, I always cry, I always cry. When they come for Dokusan, all of a sudden they'd show up, like you never know when they would show up, and then they'd come and have a little talk with you. And like half the time I was a blubbering mess. Like I don't know when it's gonna be done. I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, this is another messy one.
And what's so under in that fear, in that first contraction where it feels like this
Yeah.
hard, the steel ball, that's fear and resistance. When you put your attention on that, what then happens with it? What changes? What changed for you?
There was something really like, I mean, like I don't know nothing from Kundalini, right? I have a friend who has all this like Kundalini. I'm like, I kind of wish that seems kind of exotic, but it's like not me, right?
Yeah.
But something happened, right? Like maybe with, I don't know, your support, whatever. But something sort of like exploded, like it
Mm,
went everywhere. Like it was weird. Like that stuff doesn't happen to me. Like, but
yeah.
there was like a release. If you want to be like like kind of more clinical, there
Yeah.
was a release,
Amazing.
like something like whooshed,
Yeah.
heart, head, like I'm telling
Amazing.
you, it was weird.
Did you get
Yeah.
any memories, thoughts, any glimpses of anything that would just through, or was it just
No,
pure sensation?
the strongest thing was, and I think this is the clue though. The strongest thing was like I don't know if I could do this, but I knew you guys were there. I could feel your presence, and I don't just mean you two. I mean like all you people.
Yeah.
All right, just I want to say,
Yeah.
all you people hold the space. Okay, just want to say that.
Yeah.
I think that's the clue. I can't gratitude. That was the big thing. That wave of gratitude. It was unmistakable, and it was like not looking for it or trying to create it or
Yeah.
say it. No, it was just like gratitude. And so
Amazing.
that's something there, just you hold in space.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. It's so beautiful. I would like to go back to that. So, well, first off, I just want to, so when you are feeling that resistance to meditation, are you recognizing that there is this fear and this sensation in the body that we're calling fear, resistance, something like that, that's keeping you from sitting and being with it? Does that feel
I
like
just feel no, like I feel like everything I feel is freaking negative, if it's a frustration or, just then sometimes it's physical pain from sitting, like it's just like every single thing is negative and I just gave up. I just gave up. I'm like, I can't be down with this day after day. I just can't face it. I just gave up, but I mean, it must be just avoidance, right? I mean, it must be capital R
exactly?
resistance, right?
Exactly. It's
Exactly
exactly
is
what it
exactly
is.
what it is.
It's exactly what it is. Everything that we're doing to keep from feeling that sensation, all of the thoughts, all of the negativity, all of those drives, they're those little ways that we tend to deflect ourselves from them. And if we have that, this is unbearable, I can't do this, I don't want,
Yeah,
it's not worth it. All of those thoughts are just ways to keep us from feeling what's there and from keeping that from being seen.
that
And
room you don't want to go in, right,
that
Pernille?
room you don't want to go in. Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So we want to have that compassion with ourselves, but also that feeling of okayness. And if space is the, sort of the best thing that you can do in that moment, then giving that feeling space, but allowing it to be there and having the courage to go into that room where you can feel it and just witness what's there without the label of it's a steel cannonball, which is something which is rather dangerous and scary, right? Just the metaphor
Yeah.
for it is something which is deadly, right? It wasn't. It wasn't
Not a WMD, but yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. In a couple hundred years ago, it would have been terrifying. Nowadays, it's not quite as much, but that's the thing, right? So it's something that still has a violent metaphor to it. It wasn't a frozen bouquet of flowers that you're feeling, right? It's like it's also solid, but has a very different connotation to it. So having that courage to be able to be with that, because that all it is sensation. That's all that's there. What we even take to be fear and resistance, if you look at it, isn't really fear or resistance. That is yet another thought label on just the raw sensation. And as you got into that and felt that, you felt how it changed and transformed in some way, and you had this release from it because it's not real. It's not real in that way. You don't literally have a cannonball in your stomach that is going to explode if you come near it and touch it, right? It's safe to do these things. The other thing, though, because we haven't still gotten quite to that responsibility end of the what we were talking about. And so, do you have in your daily life, is this a common issue for you, that you feel like you have these feelings of personal responsibility for choices that you make, choices that you've made?
A colleague of mine, and she was just being descriptive. She wasn't being judgmental, and I heard it and I'm like, yeah, that fits. She called me an anxious perfectionist. So
Mm.
yeah, I think that's how I am in the world. Yeah, unless and there was somebody else that had anxiety attacks one time on one of these meetings, and you guys are talking about like her world getting smaller and smaller, and I was like identifying, like I'm 60 and it's like there's less and less I'm able to face because the weight of everything, I just can't get it right. It's just
Yeah.
there's too many things that go wrong, more and more.
Yeah.
Of course.
you know
Is is it okay if I just interject? Because because what I see is, like, we often talk about all these feelings that we have, like envy and aversion and anger and irritation and annoyance and all of that. And it's just like a funnel that goes into the same thing. And just like we had before, what we think is only in one aspect is always in every single aspect. And what I keep hearing in what you're talking about, it's that avoiding to be seen. It's that avoiding to really see you. And you did it when you said that, but there is no I. You know, that's one way of dismissing or really seeing you. And yet when you are seen, like when you feel that we sit here and we really have space for you, and everybody here on the call really holds space for you, we see you, we're doing what you are yearning most for you to do towards you, you know, to really, really hold compassion and space for you. And when you are that, really, what was it you call it? Perfectionist. You call it some antiquated perfectionist.
Anxious perfectionist.
Exactly. What is happening when we are perfectionists is that there's such a dismissing of the experience, because things have to be just so. So the experience that is happening, the being in what is here right now, the move aside, you know, it's not perfection. It's not how it's supposed to be. It needs to be moved, you know, away you go. So that that constant dismissing and constant not seeing you is what I hear is popping up also in the responsibility that you might have a need, but it's not being met because you have other responsibilities. You know, the little girl might have a need, but that is completely being dismissed because she has obligations. She has things that she needs to do first, you know, and then you can have your cookie, you know. So it's like that. And that would be also for a child so sinful, you know, wanting to be seen and not earning the right to be seen. You know, that you need to do right to get the reward, kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, to make God go away from my window, you
Yes.
know, I have to be better. Like, why are you
Yes.
kidding me? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So what keeps coming up for me when you're talking, it's about that part of really, really truly seeing you. That whatever comes up, that you for now acknowledge, and this is me too, and this is also me, and this is also me. So it's just acknowledging every single thing that comes up as a need, as a craving, as an aversion, as anything. So you don't do the fetter work that we do with the fourth and fifth yet. I would like for you first to really
just see it and say, I
yeah,
see you.
yeah,
I see you.
really see
Okay.
you. Yeah, exactly.
Don't try to change it. Just say, I see you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
without judgment.
Okay.
Without any judgment.
Okay.
That when you are
Okay.
angry at someone, then instead of feeling guilty for being angry, you're too quick. You're too quick. I want you to slow down. First go, I hear that you're angry. I completely acknowledge that you're angry. This is also me. I am angry right now, and that's okay. And then just really slowing down. So you're not too quick in jumping it and wanting to be in a different place than where you are, because in that you're not seeing what needs to be seen and what needs to be held space for.
Okay.
Do I make sense?
Yeah, perfect sense. I've got a composition book I bought for the work, and so I'm going to start using it with
Amazing.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So really, really, really slowing down and allowing anything that comes up to be there. Oh, there was greed. I see you. I'm greedy. It's okay. I'm also greedy. You know? Oh, now it was envy, like we talked about. Oh, okay. I'm envious. Okay, that's also me. Oh, now I gave to a charity. I'm generous. Okay, that's also me. You know, so it's like, so it's
Okay.
everything you allow to be there and acknowledge and see, I'm also, you know, compassionate. I'm also loving. I'm also angry. I'm also petty. I'm also compassionate. So it's like everything. You allow everything to be there, and you see everything, and you hold space for everything, and really, you know, put a lot on emphasis on the seeing what is there. So what you just felt before, that everybody here was holding space for you, that is what I would like for you to do in every single incident, and not be too quick in dismissing it with there's no I, or you know, there is no anger, there is no envy, it doesn't exist. You know, don't be too quick with that. Just slow down a bit and really allow, to hold that space.
Yeah, that's a great assignment. Thank you. I really appreciate everybody.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to hearing how it's going with that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
All
kind
right.
of had
I
like
really-
one other, sorry, I don't want to go
No.
Come on.
at the risk of it being a longer, deeper thing for a while. I want you to look into, and we could do this just briefly now, and then, you know, also take it to the mat. But what comes up for you? What would be the issue if you gave up being a perfectionist? What would happen if you gave up that need to be perfect?
They wouldn't like me as much at work. My boss wouldn't like me as much, that's for sure.
Even more. What comes up in the body with the idea of giving up being a perfectionist?
This is freaking gripping in the gut again. Like,
Uh-huh.
you know?
Yeah.
Oh man. Jeepers.
So feel that. It's
It's
okay.
bad. It's like,
yeah.
you know, let's strangle a few intestines.
Yeah. So feel that, and I want you over the course of the next couple weeks to go into that room of what it would be like to not be a perfectionist. What would it be like to really have no responsibility? Where is the clinging to the idea that you do and need to have responsibility? What happens if Debbie gives up all responsibility?
All right, I'm gonna replay this, write it all down. I'll come
Good.
back with a report. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Good. We look forward to hearing it.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
I love you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Keep
much.
up the good
Thank
work.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
That was a good one. Just to get at the end. Yeah, really good.
Thanks. There you go. Hi, Janna.
Hi, Janna.
Hello. First, I wanted to say that every time someone says something about their little girl, oh, it's my little girl comes up, you know. But what I wanted to say is kind of share that, because I heard that from Glenda and Debbie, and I had that same sense of like, oh, this working with little girl business is like not good for me. And I saw through self and everything. And then I also would always hear Pernille saying, if you've got this stuff going on, work with a therapist, get a therapist. If you need a therapist, get a therapist. And so I did that. And I've been working with someone that is with LU and is a therapist.
Oh, nice.
And it's been immensely helpful, is what I wanted to kind of share with people. And now it's like I went to the therapist with, I wanted to work on this idea of this issue and this shame. And it had to do with raising my own child.
Mm.
And then it all like really quickly turned into just like everything you're working with Glenda and Debbie and what I've seen everybody, right? It was my child. Right? Like my little girl, like me as a little girl. I mean, I should say.
Yeah.
Me as a little girl. And then she started popping up everywhere, right? It's like I could almost avoid her.
Yeah.
You know, like anything that's there she is not being seen. There she is. Her needs not being tended to. And it's like such a visceral, real feeling, you know, like there she really is. And it's been really helpful just to like have like visions of like saying to her, oh, it's okay, just climb on my lap, just sit right here, it's okay, everything's okay, you know. And then when it relaxes, just like, oh, let's go outside for a walk, let's go play, like everything's okay. For some reason, for me, that's always like the thing that's like soothing. It's okay, just sit down right here. So that's been really helpful.
Wonderful.
And then kind of back to like being a parent. Last week, I think it was on your call, Pernille, you said to someone, you can't know what it's like to be a good parent.
Mm.
Or you can't know. You can't be a good parent. I'm sure you remember this.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
yeah.
Jahara, yeah.
It just, yeah.
Oh, are you frozen?
I think you're frozen.
It just hit
Oh.
me like a ton of bricks. It was like, because that was like, I wasn't a good parent, you know?
Mm.
Oh. Like I wasn't a good parent, you know?
Yeah, I think you're
You're-
freezing up.
Yeah, your
I
audio
hear-
and video are
I
cutting
hear
in and out.
a lot of really, really good things that I want to hear.
I think you're locked up entirely now.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna unpin you, and then if you can restart and come back, please do.
I just want to say that what Janna just talked about, the part about oh, I don't need to look at myself as a child. I don't need to look at that. That's not relevant. You know, it's not relevant right now. When we get to the 7th fetter, that is something that you do, because that's when you really, really dissolve time. When you really look into what an illusion time is, that, you know, time doesn't exist. It's just, you know, a concept we have created to explain seasons and the meat suit decaying. But in our experience, time doesn't exist at all. And the past isn't what we think it is, just like the future isn't what we think it is. And in the 7th fetter, you completely dissolve that concept of time. So starting to already practice now, like what Janna talked about, that just allowing that child to experience what the child is experiencing. Like you started by saying, it's not about the child. It's not about what happened when you were a child and what didn't happen when you was a child. It's not about that at all. It's about that is coming up right now.
Yeah.
That is important right now. Of all the things you could think of, that is what comes up right now. That's relevant.
Yeah, it's no coincidence that it's here at this moment.
It's not any coincidence.
No.
And it's not about what happened when you were a child. It's about a contraction in the body that needs your awareness right now. And that contraction has happened at a different time. That's why we believe that it's about then, but it's not. It's about the bodily sensation that is here right now, that is just reminding us of something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually now we're talking about, it's almost like the thought that comes up that, oh, well, this was from when I was 6 years old and such happened. It's like it's a way of pointing back to that sensation, back to what's happening, and yet the way that we interact with it is kind of self-defeating in that way, and we actually go the other direction, and we go into the story of it, and it actually takes us away from it. But if we use that as a reminder into, yeah, there is something happening here that feels, as you said, very, very similar to something I felt many times in the past. Use that as a reminder to come back into the body, as opposed to going into the story of, oh, that happened to me then, and that's why I'm like this, and now I can't do anything about it because that story happened.
Yeah. As always, it's about that label that is completely defeating the purpose that comes up.
Yeah.
Is the label completely defeats the purpose.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Great.
Sorted. Anybody else?
There's some people that we gave assignments that I would like to hear from, but I don't want to point.
Janna is back if you want to see if they're...
Yes. Can you find?
Let me unpin us so that we can see the full gallery, and then I can find her.
Yeah. Oh no.
You see it?
Over there.
Oh.
Hello.
Hello
You
again.
disappeared there.
Oh yeah. Is it better now?
Yeah. It's really
If
good.
it starts to go out, just turn off your picture and keep with audio.
Thank you.
Okay, that's a good idea. I think what I was going to say was like whenever you said that to Jahada about, because I so feel her when she talks about like wanting to be a good parent. It's like that for me, right? Like you want to be a good parent. Of course you want to be a good parent, but like I was 17, right, when I had a baby. But when you said that and you kept telling her you can't know, and then it was like I couldn't. It was free. It ended up being freeing, is what I wanted to say. Like it's like I couldn't have been a good parent at 17. At 23, I didn't know how to be a good parent. At 30, I didn't know how to be a good parent. I'm 50 something now, and he's grown, and I don't know how to be a good parent. You know, like it just was kind of like going through that, right? I guess is what I wanted to say. Like it was freeing, right? Like, no, I can't know.
Yeah.
I can't know. So
and it's so unreasonable when we put it on us to, for example, become a good parent, because what does that mean? I mean, what does that mean? If we really stay humble and truly know that, okay, I'm doing the best that I can right now with the tools that I have right now. And just like when we look back at our lives, the decision we made when we were 20, it was the same thing. We made the decisions at that point with the knowledge that we had, amazingly good decisions. But now at 50, we can see, okay, if I had the knowledge I have now, I would make different decisions. And that is what it's going to be like when you look back at today. When you are 70, you're going to look at it and go like, oh, sweetheart, because then you will have, So it's just that really 10 Fetter acknowledging that you do not know. Having that, being humble in that way, knowing that you do not know. You do not know.
And there's also, nested in that, what we were just talking about with Debbie, or sort of started talking about, but didn't quite go down that road, is the idea of responsibility in general, and what it is that feels like you could do something different at any other point. Now with hindsight, as you were saying, you can always look back at what your 17-year-old self and say, oh, well, I could have done this better or that better, but you couldn't have at the time, because you would have if you could have. What you did was the only thing you could have done. All of your past history, all of the influences of the world, all of your brain chemistry at the time, everything that was there only allowed you to do one thing at that point, and that's what you did. Now you can look back from this hindsight and say, oh, well, if the world was different, it could have been like this. Sure, if the world was different, but it wasn't.
Yeah, and that we even don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Even that we do not know. Even if we say the world had been different, I would have done. You do not know that. You do not know that.
But we can entertain the fantasies because we don't know, and because it wasn't like that. It's just like making up any sort of fantasy story about what might happen to you if you win $30 billion in the lottery. Maybe, but it's no more real than looking back and saying I could have done something different when I was 23. You couldn't have. So it's looking into and it's one thing to take that on as a belief and just say, okay, well, I couldn't have, I guess I'm absolved, but it doesn't really get to the root of it. what's better is now to go into what feels like in this moment, like
Mhm.
the Janna in who's 50 something, if it feels like you could make a different decision in this moment than you do, then we can investigate that. And what is it that actually feels like it can make a decision? What
Mhm.
does it feel like to make a choice, to make a decision? And how does it feel that you could do otherwise than you do?
Mm.
And so we have, like, um, fun little inquiry things, like, having 2 glasses of tea or coffee in front of you and sitting there knowing that you're going to choose one of the glasses. And then you can sit and you can wait and watch to see what's happening in the body, in the mind, that seems to be uh, steering you from one thing to the other. And then watch when the hand actually reaches out and grabs at one of the glasses. And at what point did it feel like a decision was made? And what did that feel like? Is that something that you can actually choose? And then is it, if the thought just comes up, where is the person who created that thought, who chose that thought, who created that thought? And we can just dissect it like that so that we get a real visceral experience of not having responsibility, of not having the choice, of not having the ability to make a different decision than we do. And we can do that over and over again in different situations. And I recommend for people also just going about their daily life at any point, whether it's a big decision like buying a different car, or whether it's something small like, do I get up and get something to eat now, or just do I walk to the left or to the right? Notice in your direct experience for a moment what feels like you could actually move, what feels like you could choose one thing versus the other, and recognize throughout your life how much you are living completely on autopilot, where there's never even an illusion of being able to make a choice. It's just taken for granted after the fact that you did.
And also that part is super
Yeah.
funny, because if you had electrodes on your head, it would be able, somebody sitting and watching the screen would be able to see she has now decided that she wants to reach out and take the water. And that can be seen in the brain before the frontal lobe knows that you're reaching out to grab the water. And the frontal lobe is the ego that is saying, I decided to take the water, and now I am drinking the water that I decided I wanted. But that decision can be seen in the brain way before you have made that decision. So there is absolutely no one anywhere that is deciding anything. It's just, synapses talking with one another.
Yeah. But it really helps to see this, basically convince yourself through your own little experiments, through your own daily experience, that, oh yeah, there is really no person here who is doing any of it. Even having seen through the sense of self, there can still be that feeling of, well, yeah, okay, there's nobody here doing it, but maybe, there's something that still makes a choice. There's something that still could do something differently. Because if you really believed that there was no sense of self, that there not only isn't a self now, there wasn't a self when you were 17. There wasn't a self when you were 23. There wasn't a self when you were 30. There never was one. So it's not that going through LU or anything else gets rid of one. You just recognize that it was never there to begin with. It was purely an illusion. But you're still using that thought is still coming in, saying that there was a self back then and she could have done differently than she did, and she's not,
she could have been a better mother, and
could have
she
been.
could have been,
Yeah.
every decision she made, she could have decided differently. But that was the point that I was trying to make.
Yeah.
With even with electrodes on your head,
Yeah.
the decision of doing as you did when you were 17, it was made way before the frontal lobe decided. So the frontal lobe now sitting, the ego now sitting and telling the frontal lobe that it could have done differently is so delusional.
And when you're 17, the frontal lobe isn't even fully developed yet. So there's also that.
That doesn't happen until you're 19. So it's like there was no chance in hell for any good decisions to happen at any point.
Yeah.
And bad decisions to happen at any point. Yeah.
I think that's that part, like, that feels real clear to me. I think, and then I think that you guys know or how to address that, whatever. I used it as a way to bypass the feelings of, not addressing
Yeah.
what I felt, right? So
Yeah.
it was just like a real recognition for me to sort of say to people whenever they say it's really hard to sit and everything, or for me too, it's like I've been to silent 7-day retreats and it's still really hard for me to sit, it feels impossible. And that's why I think having a therapist, like, and somebody from this like non-dual side is really helpful to sit with, to get through the whole thing, right? To sit like you guys are doing here, right? Like basically to do that one-on-one where you can really feel through it and get to the bottom of it and not run away from it, and just for someone to be there and just for everybody just wants to be seen, maybe. I don't know what that is. Like I can't really speak to it, but that's how it felt for me, just for someone to be there. Like you're not gonna die.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Someone's there.
I really, really love you bringing it up. And I also want to emphasize, and I completely agree, having somebody, having your back is really important. If it's a guide or it's a therapist or it's in a group or it's your own sense of accountability, being in a group and speaking up or whatever it is, it's just really important to have that support, that feeling of support. Absolutely. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I figured out, sorry, pardon,
Go on.
why I can never find that. I'm always looking for unpin and it says remove pin. And yeah, it's a lettering thing.
Isn't it? Could you remove our pin so I can just see who's
Sure.
That's so nice. Oh, Tom, you also knew. Good to meet you. Hi. And Eric, and Beth. So good.
Anybody have anything else they'd like to bring up?
I might just check in and say hello.
Hi, Mike.
Hold on a second.
Good to see you.
Just pin you up there. Yeah, that's up.
So good to see you, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm getting a bit spacey in calls lately. It's obviously sometimes I'll just check out for a while and just kind of like it's not entirely kind of dreamy, but it's just a bit, maybe slightly disassociated. But in general, I'm okay. I think I had a really interesting experience in work. Actually, I'll share.
Yes.
So somebody was like super rude, like just unbelievably rude, and rather than react, I just got in front of it in time, and I felt it in my chest, and it was like. It was both the best and worst thing that ever happened to me at the same time. It was like I could feel all their pain and all their need to be right, and it was just like, okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
It was like, it was a new experience because it would have been a very reactive situation in the past.
Yeah. I love that. I love that so much, because that is actually, when we're talking about the fifth fetter, we have a lot of focus on that reactivity, where we react with anger or annoyance or irritation or anything like that, ill will, aversion, anything like that we react with. That is what we focus on with the fifth fetter. But at the exit of the fifth fetter, when we're really completely working with the entirety of the fifth fetter, it's when we realize that every single reaction I have, it's about me. I need to reflect on what is going on in me. I need to stay with the feelings that I have. And the moment that has been seen through and we have stayed with everything, then we get over ourselves. And that means that we experience what you experienced, that somebody is very antagonistic and very much diverting from the pain they have, and they are lashing out, and they are spewing all the vomit and bile over another person. And because you don't have any hooks in it anymore, you don't have no need to defend yourself because you're fine. You're fine. then you are standing in that open space where you just have compassion for a person that is in so much pain, being tormented so much that they cannot stay with it, that they need to attack other people. And that is the end of the fifth fetter. So it's beautiful, and I love that you're bringing it up. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
It's really, really a wonderful space of compassion to be in.
It's funny that now that you say it, it was actually a gift.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like a very thorny gift, but yeah. Because even afterwards, like I can vividly see, like the colors were brighter as I walked away.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of way. It was like very much just a kind of like, oh, you don't have to. That doesn't have to happen. You know?
No.
Yeah.
No, and I'm also curious of some of that, the brightness of the colors being, because you were really present in that moment, as opposed to being lost in the thought of, you know, in the past you've been reactive, and then it would have been all the stories about the reactivity, and you're just like sucked inside your own little bubble for, you know, an hour. So now you're just present with what's in the body, you're present with your senses, and you realize that he's not saying anything to you. There's nothing about
reliving.
you in that.
Yeah. He's just reliving an old story that is so painful to be in the body and reliving for him. So he needs to divert and place everything on you, and that we can just have compassion for. Oh my goodness, to go through life with that pain. I remember how that was. So we can just have compassion for that happening. It's really, really beautiful. And then, like Todd says, instead of the world being super, super contracted and you're ruminating about your story and your labels and your all of that, it's just opening up that expansiveness that is in like Dolby sound and polycolor and all of that, you know? Yeah, wonderful. Love that so much. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thanks. And I'd just like to like everybody who spoke was just the emotion and the sharing this evening was really beautiful. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Yeah, I love it. So
Agreed.
I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That was wonderful.
That was.
Oh, I just want to say something about that zooming out thing. Mike. No, yeah.
Do you want me to find him again?
No, it's fine. It's fine. I just wanted to say that is a very normal protecting mechanism, that because in a night like this, when we're talking, there are so many emotions, and when you really sit and you feel every single feeling, oh Debbie, I feel you so much, Glenda, I feel you so much. I'm like, I feel you in my body, the recognition of what you're talking about and the pain and all of that. I feel it so much. So having that when you are sitting and listening to that you sometimes need to zoom out, it's because there's something that is being pushed on that just need a moment. I just need a moment to digest and to like be present again, because it is a lot. It is a lot. Normally after a call like that, I go in and lie down, and I just need, quiet, and just need to digest everything, because it is a lot. So I completely understand the zooming out that Mike just talked about. And it's just about acknowledging that and giving that space.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
What time is it?
Almost 2.
Oh goodness. Time flies.
It does.
Are we calling it a day?
Yeah, I think if there's nothing else
anybody
pressing.
else that wants to? I just want to say thank you to everyone.
Absolutely.
I love this so much.
Yeah, it's been really, really lovely.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's
Thank
been
you,
really,
everyone.
really great. Next week on Friday, there's Q&A. If anybody wants to join that, that's next time all of us are gathered here again.
And
I think that's it.
Yeah, and thank you, Leela, for your help as always.
Yeah,
and
as always.
Thank you for enjoy the rest of your.
Oh, may I say something?
Of course.
I just want to say, I don't know if you've seen it, but Todd has made an amazing inquiry, fear of death inquiry. It's not something that's for everyone. No. You need to be in a good place. You need to have like solid foundation, stand solid on both feet before you listen to it. But when you listen to it, then it's really, really good of partly to see through all 10 feathers, because all 10 feathers are touched in it, a bit like the sit we did just before we started the meeting. So partly it's about seeing through all 10 feathers, but it is also about looking at your death, your physical death, when you are when from being here on the planet in one moment, and the next moment the physical being is not here on the planet. The I that we have connected with the meat suit is not here anymore. So it's a really, really, really good inquiry, and I can warmly recommend it to anybody that feels that they're stable enough to listen to it. And there's so many things happening in it. So it's one that it's really the gift that keeps on giving. You can listen to it over and over and over, and there will be new things, new aspects to look at.
Thank you.
And Leela, as always, is spot on and on the dot. And you now have the link in the comment section.
Amazing.
So there we go.
Thank you so much.
Again, thank you to Leela,
You're amazing.
a wonderful angel in the sky.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think that was it.
I think so.
This was amazing.
Yeah.
Wonderful people. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for coming. And
Yeah.
look forward to seeing you. In your
on-
Q&A, and
on
then
Tuesday,
and the
on
other-
Friday. On Friday, yeah.
All right.
Looking forward to that. Thank
Thanks,
you so
everyone.
much. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.